Howdy, periods, all who this video may apply to. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen because today I want to go over talking about what makes a strong paragraph. So here we go. You are currently writing a paragraph or an essay, sorry. Let's make sure this is being shared here. And you want to think about what the nature of a paragraph is. Well, what is the nature of a paragraph? A paragraph is a cohesive unit of thought. And each paragraph in your essay or any kind of writing is, should meet that definition. Whether it's an introduction, body, conclusion, or whether it's a paragraph in a short story or in a letter, right? There should be a unit of thought, some central idea. It may be evidence to back up a claim. It may be a description of something. For the purpose of this video, it's going to be relating to providing evidence primarily. So we're going to talk about writing a strong paragraph. And I added title as well because why not? Something else to think about. So what is a paragraph? Here we go. Paragraph is a cohesive unit of thought that flows smoothly from beginning to end, from the topic sentence to the concluding sentence, and connects to the paragraph before and after in some manner. And again, all this is meant to support your thesis, or when you're talking about like an argumentative or an expository essay, or an analytical essay, there should be some kind of a thesis. If you're talking about a short story, it's a little bit different, but let's focus on one thing at a time here. The paragraph structure is the foundation of your essay. Each body paragraph should focus on one specific example or idea from the text. That does not mean that you only have to have one textual example. You could have multiple quotes, but they should all be tied in to one main example. Your examples, of course, should prove your argument, which is essentially the thesis statement, usually found in the introduction of your essay, but not necessarily. Sometimes people like to leave the thesis statement until the conclusion, for whatever reason they may have. But for the purpose of your high school class here, we want to put our thesis early on in the essay to make it clear that we know what we're arguing about, not only for ourselves, but also to show our teacher. Most basic essays, as you're taught in high school, have a 5-paragraph structure. Another way to look at that is an introduction, body, and concluding structure, or beginning, middle, and end. Any good piece of writing tends to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You introduce your work, you provide details and examples in the middle, and you conclude it, leaving the reader with a sense of closure. So what makes a good paragraph? We talked about the paragraph being the central unit of structure. Well, paragraphs need structures themselves. They should contain a strong topic sentence. The first sentence, which is the topic sentence, needs to introduce the focus of the paragraph. You need to give the reader an idea of where you're going in that segment of your writing. These examples may not apply to the particular essay that you're currently writing, but here is an example of a strong topic sentence. The first reason that chemical fertilizer was the most important invention of the 20th century is the fact that a farmer could grow 10 times more corn per acre and thus feed 10 times as many families as with traditional farming methods. So the topic sentence gives us some kind of key words. The first reason, right? So obviously there's going to be a number of reasons in this paper why chemical fertilizer is an important invention in the 20th century, or the most. And we have an idea here, a claim: a farmer could grow 10 times as more corn per acre. So eventually we're going to need to provide some evidence to support that claim from some kind of source. But what we're doing here is we are giving some kind of keywords that tell us that here's where we're at in our essay. We're at our first reason, and we have a claim, which is that statement about growing so much corn, which sounds fantastic, but in reality, Monoculture is a dangerous thing. Organic. So never start or end a paragraph with a quote. That isn't the way you want to do it. And we can talk about that later. What else? A strong paragraph focuses on one supporting example at a time, at least in the beginning stages of writing. As you become a stronger writer and are able to kind of maneuver with more complex writing styles, you can get into multiple examples. But for our purposes, you want to focus on one example at a time. You want to provide a direct quote. Providing more than one direct quote is fine as long as they're related to the topic sentence. They're related to the same example. And you always want to state who's speaking, for example, or where the idea comes from. So if you're referencing an author or a character in a book, you want to make sure you state who makes that comment. So yeah, and what they're talking about. So that's called context. When we say, for example, that a character in a book says something, we want to know maybe what chapter they say it in. We want to know what the context is when they say it. Are they, referring to a specific event that happened? So providing a little bit of context is really important for the reader. If you just throw the quote on the page without telling the reader what the context is, it makes it hard to follow what you're talking about. And then obviously you want to also provide some commentary. So we got a topic sentence, we have an example that includes a lead-in and a quote, and we have commentary. Commentary is you explaining what that quote or those quotes show, how those quotes or how those pieces of evidence or examples relate back to your overall argument, which, as you know, is your thesis statement. So I would say 2 to 3 sentences of explanation as a general rule for each paragraph is a good idea. And of course, it says here, explanation must relate back to your thesis. Quick sip of coffee, if you don't mind. Please enjoy. That's not an advertisement. So let's talk about topic sentences. A topic sentence, we're going to get more in detail there. It clearly indicates what the paragraph will be about, as we earlier mentioned. It's a broad and general statement, which is clarified through examples and analysis. We're not going to do right now, because you could do this on your own if you have your paper written. But what you should do is be able to identify your topic sentences, and you should be able to answer the question, does this topic sentence, or does each of my topic sentences state the theme or the main idea of that paragraph? If it's yes, fantastic. If no, you need to go back and insert a topic sentence that clearly states the overall theme or idea of that paragraph. I put some common transition words here. As you saw with this statement here in this topic sentence, you have the first reason. That's considered a transition word. So first, next, moreover, after, finally. Those are some common transition words that are good to use and good to be in the habit of using as a writer, because it helps orient you, tells you where you're at in the essay. It also tells the reader where you're at and what to expect. So let's talk more about transition sentences. A strong transition sentence connects the ideas contained in different paragraphs. So obviously you have a multi-paragraph essay. You want to be able to connect each of those paragraphs in some form. So usually the phrase will briefly contain the ideas of each paragraph. For example, we call paragraph number 1 A and paragraph number 2 C. In order to get from A to C, or from paragraph 1 to paragraph 2, there needs to be some kind of transition, right? We can call that B. So the transition sentence works when it contains the ideas or the DNA from both A and C. And when we look at examples, this will become more clear. But a strong transition sentence might look like the following. It's because of A that C is able to occur, right? So the next sentence would then further describe C. As a result of this event in the character's life, it then led to their growth and ability to experience this next event or whatever it might be. So we have some example phrases: as a result, which led to. Those are transition statements as well. Inserting quotes and lead-ins. You obviously need quotes for most essays. Quotes are evidence. You never, as we said earlier, never start a paragraph with a quote. You never start a sentence with just the quote. You need a lead-in. So this one right here, the Haber-Bosch process for fixing nitrogen is the most important invention of the 20th century. It's not a sentence. If that's all you had in the sentence, that wouldn't be a sentence, because there's nothing that gives any idea of the context or who's saying that. So you must use a lead-in. A lead-in is the part before the quote that mentions what's happening and who's speaking. So lead-ins introduce the quote. Here's an example. According to Michael Pollan, or you can fill in the blank, Rodolfo Anaya or Ta-Nehisi Coates, or whatever the essay that you're writing is about. According to Michael Pollan, in his discussion about the effects of fertilizer on the farming industry, that's the lead-in, okay? Then you have the quote, the Haber-Bosch process, blah, blah, blah. We also have our citation, which is always important. If you're just using a novel, you're analyzing a novel, you may just put the page number. Depends what your teacher wants. If it's just one novel, usually a page number is fine. You don't need to include the author. So the red here is the lead-in, and it turns the quote into a sentence. It's now a complete sentence. So I'm going to stop there. I don't think we need to go over the titles. Hey, let's do it. Why not? Because we have time. Titles for academic papers. Academic paper, such as an analysis essay or an argument essay, is not a short story, so you don't title it like one. You don't title it like, if you're writing an essay on Bless Me Ultima, Antonio's journey. It sounds too story-like. What you want to do is say something like an analysis of Antonio's growth in Bless Me Ultima. So don't title it like a short story. Title your essay like the academic paper that it is. And these are all things you want to do now as a high school student, because once you get to college, that's going to apply as well. So academic titles have the following elements. They mention the title or text or theme, title of the text or theme, excuse me, and or they mention the subject of the essay. So for the essay that we were looking at in this document here, chemical fertilizer, the most important invention of the 20th century. That tells us where the essay is going, what I'm going to expect to read about, even gives us a hint as to the argument or how chemical fertilizer changed farming and America. Here are some weak titles. Essay, right? Research paper, I don't know, or untitled. You want to say, what your paper is about. You want to think on an academic level. So that's a little bit about titles, but also mostly about writing strong paragraphs. We'll talk more about that, and we'll learn to score our paragraphs, and so we can self-evaluate and write strong ones at a later time. So thanks for listening, and if you have questions, always feel free to ask them. That's what I'm here for. See you later.